Summer Birds by Penelope Farmer. Part 2, 4. Charlotte felt tired. She was glad to lie on the bank by herself while the others practiced duck landings noisily on the water. It was a beautiful lake, she decided. She would like to live there forever and ever, and lying there now, there seemed no reason why she should ever move. The lake was not big. On the side where Charlotte was lying, a parkland stretched down to it, a scattering of tall, smooth beech trees and lengths of sheep-cropped grass. On the other side of the lake, the woods began. Vast rhododendrons, overgrown, reached almost to the edge of the water and threw their long, sober leaves into it. In a clearing, fighting for life among the bushes, was the small temple, a round dome on slender pillars planted on a round marble floor. Shallow steps, now broken and overgrown, stretched down to the reeds and the water, and carved above the archway, looking there, was the head of a goddess. At least, Charlotte was sure she must have been a goddess once. She was very pagan, but her nose was broken, and ivy curled rakishly over her brow. "That's old Moo," said Toddy informally to Emma when they all sat down to eat their lunch. Charlotte said, "Oh!" in surprise. "Why?" she asked. Once Toddy told her with delight. A cow had found its way into the bushes behind the temple and had stuck there, plaintively lowing. "That's a ghost," Toddy had said decisively. "Ooh!" And the others, who were with him, had cried, allowing themselves to be frightened. "Yes, the ghost of the lady over the door." Toddy had got on, his imagination leaping. "Ooh!" The rest had said again, and though they knew it must be a cow, ever since the goddess of the temple had been known as Old Moo. The boy, eating one of Charlotte's Spam sandwiches — she hated Spam — was not impressed. He was cross anyway because it was early to be eating, and he wanted to explore, but the others, especially Ginger, said their insides were flapping, just flapping, and they didn't care if it was still only 11 o'clock in the morning. And it wasn't. It was 11:30, and they were going to eat. So they did, sprawled on the sheep-cut turf on the other side of the lake from the temple. Toddy and Ginger were delighted to have their own way. It was more than being glad to eat. They were glad to have won the argument with the boy, whose command Toddy, at least, was beginning to resent. Toddy's obvious gloating annoyed the boy. He sat by himself, snatching at insects, and took, with bare thanks, the sandwich that Charlotte offered him. She wondered what she could say to calm him, but looking at how hunched and ruffled he was, like an angry bird, she decided to leave him alone. Indeed, he soon began to recover of his own accord. At first, the children were wary of what they said to him, in case he took their power to fly away from them. But soon they forgot their fear, because he forgot his rage and joined their conversation, if not with words, at least with interest. When they were full and were beginning to grow restless, Ginger and Toddy found some flat stones and started skimming them across the water, competing to see who could make them hop most of the surface. Toddy, who was very clever at it, better than Ginger despite his smaller strength, managed to make one stone hop 7 times, spreading round ripples on the still water. "But you can't do that," he said to Ginger in a superior voice. Ginger tried and failed, but good-naturedly, only laughed, his face pink with trying. "Told you couldn't," remarked Toddy, grinning proudly. The boy, who had been watching him with hostility, now wandered over, and picking up a stone, flung it carelessly across the water. All the children watched it, suddenly silent, and counted to themselves. 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 13. No, 14 whole times the little stone skipped on top of the water with a light ripple before sinking silently beneath the surface on the 15th hop. The boy snatched at a fly and sauntered away without looking at Toddy, scowling. "Show off, stuck up, bet he cheated, but he used magic," muttered Toddy under his breath. "Come on, Ginger, let's leave these babies and that cheat." And they too walked away, purposefully stalking, heads high, around the edge of the lake until, faced with an impenetrable thicket of rhododendrons and brambles, they were forced back and foolishly returned. The ill feeling aroused by this incident did not seem to last. Toddy, who was rarely vindictive for long, quickly recovered his temper, while Ginger, who had never been angry anyway, had all cares rubbed from his mind by the sudden friendliness Emma was showing him. As for the boy, he made no further effort to annoy them, with the others was particularly friendly and talkative. Thus, if they thought of it at all, most of them imagined it only a temporary quarrel swiftly ended. But Charlotte, although she said to Maggot when they were talking together, "Oh, I'm sure it's all right now," Charlotte feared trouble one day, and looking at Maggot, she thought she feared it too. "It mustn't spoil the summer," she cried inside herself. "It mustn't. It mustn't." The rest of the day passed swiftly. They swam again and became hungry. In vain, because they had no more food, Jammy and Scooter managed to annoy a swan into chasing them. Its wings stretched wide and high, dark hissings coming from its beak, poked out angry and orange at the end of a serpentine neck. The boy was forced to fly to their rescue. He talked to the swan in some soundless language that seemed to satisfy it, for it bowed its head and folded its foamy body onto the water, and swam away majestically without a glance at the two frightened boys. Shortly after this, when the shadow of the temple stretched long on the water, they flew home again. The midges bit savagely, and there was mud dried on their bodies, which were stretched and burned and exercised. They could hardly struggle along, and went slower and slower toward home. But, sun and air full, they were happy, and their mothers wondered at their appetites. All, that is, but Jammy and Scooter's mothers, who were too busy scolding them for spending a whole day away and telling lies, for they had met out shopping and discovered the deception. Jammy and Scooter, shut up in their bedrooms without supper, wondered gloomily how they would ever escape again. Baby's mother, on the other hand, was so thankful to see Baby again that she did not scold him and gave him extra ice cream for supper. It was not fair, said Jammy and Scooter when they discovered this at school on Monday morning. It was not fair. Parents, it seemed, were going to be a problem. So were Toddy and the boy, thought Charlotte, and the summer holidays had not even begun. And that's the end of chapter 4.